So this is Keith Williams with the Skill Stadium podcast. Today you are going to learn from a guest about how to use social media to increase your online presence and how you can use your skill sets to pivot into a career of your choice. My guest today is Jennifer Cline. She's a full-time woodmaker and flag maker. She grew up in Newton Falls, Ohio. It's a small town. And then she attended the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, where she earned a fashion and marketing degree. Jennifer met the man of her dreams, a handyman who could fix anything. Yeah. And they were going to need those skills because they had an old farmhouse that they were going to have to fix up. That was their dream. And so this dream turned into a nightmare when they had a tragedy. They were remodeling the old farmhouse room by room, and Jennifer's involvement was really limited and to design work, holding the end of the tape measure. And tragedy really hit them when her husband, unfortunately, was killed on her son's 4th birthday and by a distracted driver. So she overcame this tragedy by learning new skills and fulfilling the vision she and her husband had of remodeling this farmhouse. She's a remarkable woman of faith who has reinvented herself and bounced back from tragedy. And she is most proud of her children and setting an example for women that they can fix and do anything they want. Please welcome Jennifer Cline to the Skill Stadium podcast. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Keith. And I thank you for having me on it and allowing me the chance to tell my story.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, it's my pleasure. I thank you for agreeing to this. One of the things I will say with Jennifer is there's a lot of information out there on you, and it made it a lot easier to research you. And so one of the things I wanted to emphasize to people is the importance of having a strong online presence. Yeah. I can't stress that enough. And Jennifer is a prime example of that. And also, like I said, the ability to reinvent yourself because life hits you.
It does.
So, yeah. And I'll say this, one of the things that has really impressed me with Jennifer is she understands the importance of engaging her audience on public media, on social media. And so one of the things that, like I said, that I wanted to ask her about is, why do you think it's important to respond to people who comment on your social media posts? Can you share with us?
Sure. Well, just because if they've taken the time to reach out to me and to say and compliment me and say that they've liked something or that maybe I inspired a project that they did on their own, I really, really try. Now, sometimes it's not possible to reply to every single person, but I really try to at least it's just the right thing to do. If they took the time to tell me that they liked something that I did, then I feel I should reciprocate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It says a lot to you about your character and who you are, because, if somebody walked up to you and said a compliment, hey, I really enjoy what you do, or you do great work, I admire you, you wouldn't just look at them and keep walking. You
wouldn't, exactly.
I would hope you'd say, well, thank you, which is normal. So I think that people have to realize how they act on social media is a reflection of the type of person they are, So like I said, I really wanted to emphasize that because that was the thing that really jumped out to me, because you do have a very big following, and I've seen people who have big followings who don't do what you do. And it makes a difference, I'm sure,
Yeah, I really, really try. And like I said, it isn't possible. And sometimes I'll go back to an old post that I'm no longer getting an alert on. And I'll see that people commented and I'm like, oh my goodness, they probably feel like I blew them off and didn't respond. So I really, really try. So if I don't, then it's just, maybe that those alerts aren't showing up in my feeds anymore. But I really, really try. So I do appreciate the people that follow me and support me and really try to give them love back.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Talk to us about growing up, because you are very handy, and, we want to show that women are just as handy as men, and because it's a traditional field that we don't always see that.
Right.
Talk to us about growing up as a child, how that shaped you into the woman that you are today.
Well, I was not handy as a child, but I've always been creative. As a child, I always had like a little corner. My mom had a little table for us kids, and I pretty much took over that. I had scrap pieces of paper. I always had clippings. I had markers, paint, and I was very creative. And my nickname back then was Jenny the Mess Maker. And you know what? And I'm pretty much still a mess maker. But I was not handy. I had a dad who was a welder, very skilled in his craft. But you know, I was one of three girls. So he would be out working in his garage. And I guess I probably wasn't really interested in that type of thing back then, but I really wish my dad would have grabbed us, you know, and said, hey, come out and maybe shown us the basics. But this was a different time. That was back in, you know, I was born in 71.
Yep.
So it really wasn't common for dads to grab their daughters and take them out in the garage and show them what they were doing. So really that didn't, although he comes over now, my dad's still around, he's 80.
Oh,
And he
nice.
comes around, he'll stop in and we'll sit out in my shop and he'll, you know, see what I'm doing. And so we have that time now.
Yes.
But so, yeah, the handy thing really didn't come into being until the tragedy of, you know, which was the loss of my husband.
Sure.
And that was 12 years ago. And that's really where I had to fill in the gaps from the things that he did around here. And I had to learn.
Yes.
There was really no other way around it.
Yeah. And now are you able now, because I do know in listening to your bio that it was important for you to be able to carry on that tradition for your children.
Yeah.
Were you able to help them, you know, with your husband obviously not there? Were you able to pick up that mantle and sort of show them some of the things that he was going to teach them?
Yeah. Yes. And actually my son, I'm very proud of him. He's a junior. This is going to be his path. He wants to be a carpenter.
Awesome.
He's a junior. He's going to our local trade school and he absolutely loves it. And I know his dad is proud.
Yes.
My daughter, not so much. She's working. Actually, it's a company that I found through social media. They hired her.
Oh, nice.
So she has a psychology degree. She just finished Kent State University. I'm very proud of her.
Awesome.
So she has a bachelor's degree in psychology. So I think that maybe this company, she'll do something in human resources. I'm not sure, but she does watch.
Okay.
You know, like she'll say, hey, mom, my tires need filled up. And I'll say, you need to watch me and learn how to do these small, handy things. She was really happy. She got something through Walmart. It was like a little side dresser and she put it together on her own.
Nice, nice.
And she was really happy with that. And so like there's small things and she has time, but yeah, both kids, I'm really proud of them. I hope to share things that Gary would have taught them.
Definitely. And you know what? Tell them that it's going to save them money.
I know.
Have to pay somebody else to do it. And you know, mom, you've got, as a mom, you've got your life now. You've got things you have to do. So you're not always going to be there to put things together for them, you know? So it's important for them to get a little bit more independent and be able to do those things. So now your son, now being a junior, you have one more year with, I guess your daughter is now moved out on her own and she
still lives here. She lives with me. She's only 24. I mean, she's 24. Okay. So she's welcome to live here, you know, as long until it's time to leave. But yeah, my son's here. He's going to be 17 in July and he just loves what he's doing. He's
awesome.
Found his little niche in making like cutting boards and he's sold. I've posted a few of those on LinkedIn and he's already had customers and I'm really proud and maybe someday we'll work together.
Definitely. I mean, he has a great mentor and a great example. So, you know, he's going to learn from you, obviously. So that's great. So now you use, you know, you look like you have a lot of fun on social media.
I do.
Tell me what you enjoy the most about the work that you do.
Oh, you know what? It's something I can't shut off. Like these ideas, I have to keep a notebook or I'll just see something. That's what I love specifically about TikTok is I feel like it really breeds ideas and I'll see something that maybe is completely unrelated to what I do, but I'll see a trend and, you know, they crop up daily on TikTok, new ideas. And I think, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I have to find a way to use that trend and put my little woodworking spin on it and inject my personality into it. And that in and of itself is really fun. Like thinking of new ways, or I'll see something and go, oh my gosh, I have to do that. So I'm constantly putting ideas in my phone or writing things down. And it's just really, I get a kick out of that.
Yeah, and I think creatives are extremely valuable. You have to think about anything we have in life. What we're on right now is Zoom. Somebody
Yeah.
had to create that. Somebody had to
Yep.
have an idea and think about it. And I think a lot of people really underestimate the importance of having that skill set. It's one of the reasons I'm sure why you have a big following and a lot of people do enjoy your work, because it's something you've created. Nobody else has done it
Yeah.
but you.
Yeah.
And so again, I think anything that we have that's great, that we enjoy, the things that we take for granted, someone had to create it. So
Exactly.
I can't emphasize how important that is.
I
Now,
can't either. Creativity for me, if I can take a little side note with that, for me, creativity has really been a saving grace. And I know
mhm,
there's a lot of people right now going through a really rough time with
yes,
being stuck in their homes or their jobs are taken or whatever. And so for me, I would encourage those people that are having a hard time to figure out what it is that you like to do that is creative. Because for me, it is just a release, a way to channel my gifts that I've been given. And it has helped me through a lot of days that are really, really tough.
sure, sure. You are so upbeat. It's hard to believe that you're having challenges, but we all do.
Oh,
So, I think you know how to manage that. And obviously through your creativity and through the work that you do on social media, that seems like a good way to handle things when there's some challenges, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. So, you're self-taught, and I admire that, because that that's just something. We live in a world where people are so used to being, oh well, show me how, regimented school. I need somebody to teach me. But you're self-taught woodworker and flag maker. Do you have any advice you can give for young people who are thinking of pursuing a creative path?
Just do it. Just try it. Don't look at the people that are experts and compare yourself to those people. I
Mhm.
think that's where a lot of people get sidetracked, is they see what other people have done, but they don't see the struggle that it took
Mhm.
and the mistakes that those people made to get there.
Mhm.
That's why I try to keep my things real and to tell people, I just did a video on LinkedIn where I showed my first project. It was when my husband was alive.
Yes.
We had, and I don't know if you saw that video, but it was one of the last things that we were doing together. It was our dining room
Mhm.
that he completely redid. And my involvement in that was like picking out the colors and all of that. And we got it done. It was right before Christmas. And then all of a sudden, like the last finishing touches I wanted, we had these curio cabinets. And mind you, this is like an 1818 farmhouse. So there's these built-ins. And all I wanted was to display his grandma's dishes. And I
Sure.
wanted these little plate rails put up.
Yes.
And Gary was like, I don't have time for that. He was out working in something in the garage. And I'm thinking, what is he doing out there? But he handed me like these little strips of wood and this tiny little hammer and this little hacksaw.
Mhm.
And he's like, here, if you want it done, you do it. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this?
Yes.
Well, here he was making bird boxes for me. So I felt like a real jerk when I figured that out. But I shared that story on LinkedIn because I wanted to show people this was the first thing I did. And they might look at this beautiful workbench behind me
Mhm.
and think, well, I can't do that, without knowing the backstory that those hutches were really the first thing I ever did. So I really try to keep it real
Yes.
and tell people that, look, this is where I started, was with
Yeah.
this. And even then I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm going to screw this up. And, if I mess up, well, it's his fault. He left me in charge of this. So yeah, I really try to, I guess is the moral of the story, is to show people that start small, that
Yeah.
everybody, and I still have much to learn,
Mhm.
but everybody had to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I think also you weren't afraid to fail. You know,
Yeah.
you weren't sitting there thinking about, well, the end. You weren't thinking about, well, it's got to be elaborate. It's got to look. You said, hey, let me just give this a try and see what happens. And I
Yep. See
think,
what happens.
yeah, I think so many people, they overthink it. And nowadays we have so much information online that can help you. Like, I'm sure if you Google whatever it is you're trying to do, there's a YouTube video on it. And you prove that anything is possible because you did not have a background. You were not formally, I want to emphasize that you were not taught, because I always say self-taught. I wanted to really make a point that you went and figured it out, and you figured it out at a time where you were going through a tragedy. So, and you're still, and at the same time, you're raising young children. So that's not lost on me. I'm a parent, and, and it's hard work with me and my wife raising two kids. So I have a lot of empathy for you, knowing that it's not easy what you had to go through, and to be able to still, and your kids seem like they're doing fine. So you've really obviously done a great job. So what a blessing that, that you've gone through this and still managed to keep going. So I just really wanted to emphasize to people, anything's possible when we see the challenges you've gone through and what you're doing now.
If you just don't give up. And one thing I want to touch on with mistakes, I don't think you should be afraid of making mistakes, because I can tell you, sometimes I've made them, like even in a project, I've made a mistake. Yes. And then I have to figure out how to correct it. And really the finished product most times turns out even better than what I had planned.
Yes. Yes. No, 100%. 100%. Curious, where did you get the Miss Dewalt title? I know I've seen that somewhere on a video, but please share that.
Okay, so it's a long story, but I had at the time, because I'm a paralegal. That is my background. I was working at a courthouse. I had a job I absolutely loved. And so most all of the people coming in to testify, I was a grand jury coordinator. So in keeping with the grand jury schedule, most of the people coming in to testify were police officers. So long story short, I won a contest through Dewalt. And so my police officer friend started calling me Miss Dewalt as a like kind of a funny joke nickname, because there is a Miss Makita.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware of her. She's looks a little different than how I portray myself, but they're like, hey, you're like our version of Miss Makita. You're our Miss Dewalt. So I was like, real funny. And then like the idea around that time for me to have a YouTube channel began, and I'm like, this is really something I need to do. What do I call it? And I was going to be Miss Fix It. And for some reason, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. That isn't me. I'm like, when they keep calling me Miss Dewalt, what the heck? I kind of just adopted it. I'm like, I like it. They're not going to stop calling me that. And then my friends started calling. So it just kind of took off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to own it.
Yes.
So,
and I saw an interview. Great. I saw an interview where I think someone was talking to you about being approached by, like maybe getting sponsorship from Dewalt, because I see you showing their work, and I think you'd shared that, you're not representing them, but why I don't understand why they haven't approached you at this point, because in our minds, when we see that, I naturally assume, wow, she's working for them, or she's representing them in some form or another. Yeah. I think we're missing the boat on this,
I think they are too. And can I just share with you that we talked about, sometimes you do have life's disappointments. My goal for them, I really wanted to be the first woman featured in their advertising. And yesterday they featured a woman, and it wasn't me.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you.
Well, but I have to, yesterday was rough because when you work for something and you think you deserve it, it's like really hard not to feel sorry for yourself. But I'm like, today I'm realizing that I feel like part of my purpose was to open the door for other women. And so like for that, I at least feel like I did.
Yes.
What I was supposed to do.
Yeah. I can also tell you that, God works in certain ways, strange ways. And
I know
there's an opportunity out there for you. And like you said, it's just staying positive. One door is closed, another is going to be open. And I believe you probably opened that door for that.
I do.
For that person. I believe that. I honestly believe that. And it also has probably changed their mindset. Believe me, they know who you are.
I know. Sure. I've talked to them. I know people.
Yes.
They're high up. So they're very well aware of me. And I don't know that they don't have something else planned for me in the future.
Yeah. And it could be bigger and better. So
I know that is my hope.
And most important, what's happening is you enjoy the work you do. That's obvious.
I do.
And we live in a time where a lot of people don't love the work that they do. You do. That's a rarity that people get to do the work that they love. And I think as we get older, I'm about the same age as you, and I'm born in 71 too. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah. And what I've learned, and I think you can speak to this, is that I've seen peers, it's sadly, but I've seen people who've passed at my age. And as you're getting up in age, you start realizing life is short. We're not here for,
Yeah,
you have to do the things that you enjoy, that make you happy at some point. If not now, when?
right.
So I think it's a blessing that you are able to do the things you enjoy. If you continue doing that and you're doing a good job, which you are, you are easy to be discovered. You're good at what you do. The opportunity is going to come. That I have no doubt
Thank you.
about that. So
Thank you.
I wish you continued success with that.
Thanks.
Now you have very creative and entertaining videos. What's your process for coming up with these ideas? That's what I'm really curious about. How do you come up with these ideas? I know you're writing it down, but can you share the process in which you do that?
I often think there has to be some type of divine intervention, to be quite honest with you. There are ideas that come to me and I'm like, that didn't come from me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just, I think what I really pride myself on is I'm one of many woodworkers, but I can see there's a definite difference, and it's just my own personal style. I try to take a project and not just do a time-lapse video and put music to it. I try to turn it into like an actual music video production.
Yes, I've noticed
around
that.
whatever I'm doing. So I will, if I feel like I need to dress up in a certain way to go with the theme, or I really put a lot of importance on the music I choose, that it goes with what I'm doing. I'm more theatrical maybe than a lot of my peers.
Sure, I can see that.
So I'll just film things, and I really like when I go to edit that I'm very particular and nitpicky about my actions and the music matching up.
Sure.
So I really enjoy that part. So a lot of people are like, you need to hire somebody. And I'm like, no, because I really want to have my hand. I really want it to be the best reflection of me. Like, I have a feeling if someone else edited, I'd be editing.
It'd be different. Yeah. Yes.
know?
Because there is a look, like when I see your videos, like I remember the Christmas videos that you had, the different days of Christmas, and there's a certain feel to the work that you do that all right, it would be different if somebody else did it. That's all I can say.
Agree.
I think I'm like, all right, I know this is going to be entertaining. I know it's going to draw you in, and it's also who you are. That's what's most important. You're just being you, which is so important, So, you're active on social media. This question, I know TikTok is your favorite. And can you share why TikTok is such a great platform for you based on what you're doing?
Because it's the platform where all of my strengths come together the best. That's why I think that it's because I feel like everywhere else was kind of like a good training place for me. And then when TikTok came about, it was like, oh my, because I'll share with you, there was one platform I tried.
Sure.
It was Reddit.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Reddit.
People were nasty in the woodworking community. I thought, oh, good. Here's another community like Instagram where all the woodworkers are all so supportive. And I went on there and it was like, what are you doing? You're not like us. Why are you dancing?
No.
Why are you like bebopping? Why are you video? Why are you different? And I was like, I got the clear message that you're unlike us and you don't belong.
Yeah.
So then TikTok came around and I was like, oh, thank goodness. Finally, the place where I feel like I fit in and to where what I'm doing is expected and it's welcome.
Yeah. I always say you got to get in where you fit in. You got to get in where you fit in. So that makes sense. And I find it so unnecessary to be nasty. Like
I know
the energy it takes. Like why not just ignore it? Like if you don't like what I'm doing, just ignore it and mind your business and keep going. Nobody asked you for your,
I know.
I feel there's something wrong with people who have to go out of their way to say something mean and unkind.
I don't understand it. And I'm glad. Are you glad we don't understand it? Because if
I
we
don't get it.
did, we would be nasty people too.
Yeah.
But like, just move along. Why? But I've noticed, because sometimes I get really upset, and I just out of curiosity look at their profiles to see, well, you're such an authority on this subject. And I look at their stuff and I'm like, oh, zero content. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, there you go. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because you are going to be judged, and you're going to find that there are a few that, for whatever reason, feel better about themselves by tearing other people down. And like, that is hard to deal with. I have a hard time.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. I was, so I have a skilled trade job platform, and I started going on the Facebook pages of skilled tradespeople like carpenters, and I was sharing some information on salaries and just the type of jobs. And this guy started like lashing out at me saying, well, that's not what I make here. And I said, well, listen, hey, you know what? I'm doing this to help expose our young people. Why don't you tell me? Why don't you maybe come on a day in the life? So I challenged him. Look, hey, I'm not an expert, because he's like, oh, you're not a blue collar person. I'm like, you're right, I'm not. I agreed with him right away. And I said, but why don't you come on and show me and teach me? And then the people who were, he didn't. And the people who were on the, I guess, who were in the group started attacking him, because I'm saying, look, purpose of what I'm doing, I want to help teach our young people how to get into the profession. So I'm here to help. Do you want to help? Share some advice to help some young people, you know? And to me, you should say yes. Because I said, look, your experience, you're telling me you know the industry. Why wouldn't you take 5 minutes to help a high schooler? Because my target audience to teach people about the trades are our youth. And to me, it tells me a lot. Like, if you can't take 5 minutes to share your knowledge to help our young people, that tells me a lot about you.
That's everything you needed to know.
That's all I need to know. Because all of us were young at one point, you know, all of us were young at one point. I always say, somebody helped you. And I told him, I said, somebody helped all of us. I said, if you're over 30, at some point, somebody helped you, you know, and if you don't get it. And he went quiet because he couldn't really attack me, because I didn't attack him back. I kind of took the wind out of his sail. He wanted me to attack him back. And I said, no, look, here's what I'm doing. Here's why I'm doing it. Why don't you come and help me? Why don't you come and we'll do an interview? And he was shocked, because he, you know, and that's why I say, like, some people are just they're looking for a reaction. They want you to, you know, they want you to take the bait. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking the bait, you know?
Exactly. And you did the right thing. You called him on it, and he cowered down. And, you know, I've had the same situation where sometimes I don't have to do anything, where my followers are like, you know, they put people in their place.
Yes.
And, you know, it's funny. I did have one video a couple weeks ago where people, for whatever reason, just latched onto it. I had a chainsaw, and I think that had a lot to do with it. And for whatever reason, that seems to threaten people. But
oh, no.
I had one guy that just was really nasty. And later on in the day, he came back, and I didn't take the bait. And later on, he came on and he apologized to me.
Yes. Oh, that's
good. And
he
said, you know what? I'm really sorry. And I said, you know what? It's okay. I forgive you. And everyone's having a hard time right now, and no big deal. We're still friends. It's all good.
Yeah. I think people catch themselves too, because sometimes they might be able to look at what they can reflect. Maybe he probably looked and reflected and said, wow, that probably wasn't the nicest thing, you know. So good that he had that self-awareness to do that. Yeah. So I'm curious, you know, like, are your kids on social media? So do they follow you, or
they do?
Oh, cool. So what do they think? Do they give you feedback, or do they?
Oh.
I'm curious, because they're a little older. They're teenagers, and your daughter's a little older. So
so they've been embarrassed by me before, of course. But really, at the end of the day, they're very proud of me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like, my son, I think at one point wasn't quite sure how he felt about me being on TikTok, but then, like, a lot of girls and some of the boys in his class, this was a couple years ago, like last year, they followed me. And when they found out that I was his mom, they were like, hey, that's cool. And he came home, he's like, hey, mom, this cute girl follows you. kind of like, can you give her a shout out? Can you follow her back? And like, then it was okay.
Now you're playing matchmaker for him.
Yeah. Well, like, right. Or like things come in the mail, like there's a lot of products, which I'm really thrilled that people would want me to demonstrate their product
Sure.
and put it, put my spin on it. But like a lot of times things will come in the mail and they're like, hey, can we have that when you're done? And that's kind of neat for them.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really important to show kids that no matter how old you are, you can still have dreams. And I
Yes.
want to show them that if you work hard for something, that your dreams can come true.
Yeah. And you know what else is good is having your kids online. It's a litmus test for, I always say, if I post something, would my kids be embarrassed or would they
Yeah.
be ashamed of what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
my kids are a little younger. I have a 12-year-old son, 10-year-old daughter. My 12-year-old is starting to get a little bit on social media, but everything you do, there's nothing that you've done, I can say personally, that just watching that I feel you'd be embarrassed if your
Yeah.
kids saw. And I think that is a testimony to your character. And I think it's so important as a parent. I don't want to post something. If I'm being nasty to somebody online, would my kids be proud of that? No.
That one or my dad, because my
Or my
dad
dad.
follows
Yeah,
me
parents.
too.
Yes.
My
Yes.
80-year-old father will say, hey, I saw your YouTube video and blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, I definitely try to be very careful. There are a few times, like there was one time I used a song that did have a bad word in it, but I made sure I bleeped it out.
Sure. Yeah.
But then there's others that I'm like, that just cry. And I don't care how popular that is on TikTok. I'm not going to use that song because like there's some that I'm like, no, that crosses the line. So I really try to be very careful to not show anything. I mean, I've reshot things that like maybe I bent over and I didn't know you could see it on my shirt
Sure,
or something,
sure.
like I've reshot entire sequences because it shifted. And so I really try to be careful to watch the message that I put out there and what I'm wearing and like the music I'll use. And by the way, that song, like the swear word wasn't that bad, but still I didn't want it. Like I made sure I coughed. I think I coughed over it.
Sure.
I did a voiceover and I coughed.
Nice. You have some good editing skills.
Yeah.
You have some great editing skills.
Thanks.
So, I think it's important, it's important to acquire data because social platforms are based on data and data ensures, how you'll connect with your audience and platforms. Can you share with us how you're determining success with the posts and that you're doing on various platforms? Are you kind of watching the data to see, how your posts are performing
all the time?
And have you seen like a pattern or anything?
Yes. So I pay a lot of attention to that. It's kind of a double-edged sword because I have to remember that my whole purpose is to inspire people.
Sure.
And I do get a lot of messages from people saying, hey, we tried that, or you inspired me to do this or whatever. So there's that side of it. Okay. So my main purpose is to inspire, but it's really hard to look at something and go, oh my gosh, only not 3 people, like 300 people watched that. And I spent an hour doing that video. And so there's like, it's a constant struggle between watching, engaging, like, oh, hardly anybody saw that, but hey, I really want to inspire people. But I really pay attention to analytics a lot. TikTok right now, I feel like the more people that come on the platform, the harder things are to see and your exposure. But I try not to put all of my eggs in one basket. So I'm on a lot of different platforms.
I've noticed that. Are you seeing that? Are you starting to understand the audience that you're attracting? So have you noticed like, okay, it's a lot of young women, young men, older women. Are you seeing some kind of patterns now?
On TikTok, I have 80% females following me.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, where the other platforms are mainly men.
Okay.
I'm getting everybody really.
Yeah.
In one shape or form. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Definitely.
I would like my TikTok growing to it would be lovely to be 50-50. Sure. But at least, women, that was the segment I set out to reach. So there I am doing that.
Yeah. Another thing too, I might think that you should do is maybe partnerships with some of the local education, some of the schools. I'm not sure if you've ever given thought to that, but I think you could really reach out and connect with some folks through the schools, especially, your son's in high school already. So,
Yeah.
if you have a relationship with the schools, I think that that would really help some young women because, as I'm sure you're aware, there are not a lot of women in the skill trades. There are not a lot of women who do what you do. And I think if you start targeting the schools, I think you have a lot of value you can bring.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. I
yeah,
would have to get over my fear of stage fright. For as outgoing as I like, at least with the video, I can record and then I can edit.
sure.
So public speaking has always terrified me.
Yeah,
So I would have to overcome that if I were to do that. Or maybe I could just record messages and have them watch it or whatever. I'd have
definitely.
to start small, but like Cameron's carpentry class, there are no females in it.
Yeah. And you know what? I think also if you're doing it in a small group where maybe you're in
Yeah.
there actually doing the work, that you wouldn't even be thinking of it as public speaking because you'd
Yeah.
just be doing what you normally do.
Right.
And how powerful, I just believe that that would be really powerful for those young women
I do
who
too.
are undecided. You probably feel really, I think it's something you personally, just the feeling I get from you is you would enjoy something like that's just kind
I
of
do
my,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really
because
one of those situations that you're like, you freak out over. And then once you do it, you're like, hey, that was really fun.
yeah, yeah,
I have a
yeah,
feeling it would be one of those like, why was I so worried about that? Because I've had other things like that that intimidated me in the past. And then once you get through it, you're like, why was I so afraid of that? That was actually really fun to do. So
yeah,
I could see me maybe one day doing that.
yeah,
I feel like I'm making an impact now, at least. I feel
oh,
like
definitely.
a lot of young girls watch my videos and maybe they don't want to grow up and be an electrician or whatever, but maybe they want to be a maker. Maybe they want to just be self-sufficient and pick up tools where maybe they were intimidated before because they hadn't seen other women doing it.
Yeah. I also think that it's a good skill set to have. Just
Yeah.
if you're going to live in a home, which most people will,
Yeah.
the ability to do those things are going to save you money. And I think a lot of young
Right.
people underestimate that. And I get
I
it. Maybe they
agree.
have an apartment when they're just getting started, but eventually at some point, even if you have an apartment, everything is not on the landlord to fix. There's some things that you can just
Exactly.
learn how to fix yourself. So it's something that they're going to encounter at some point.
Exactly. Or say you just want to put up shelves, or say you just want to, do like a small plumbing job or whatever. There are a lot of things that, yeah, that you don't have to be a skilled trade to. There are a lot of things that are going to come up that you need
Yeah.
to take care of, as we all know. Things
Yeah.
come up daily here.
Oh yeah. And if you buy like furniture at, like when you're young, you don't buy the best furniture. A lot of times
Yeah,
you buy furniture
exactly.
that you have to put together. Like, when you were just getting started, I'm sure like, we came up at a time where we didn't just have everything. We just didn't go to a store and got the brand new, newest furniture when we were just getting started. You had to put some things together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that could definitely help them. Final question for you. I really appreciate your time.
Oh,
What
I'm
is
happy.
success? Yeah. What does success look like for you?
You know what? I think that my answer is probably a lot different than I think a lot of people think success equals money.
Mhm. Yeah.
And not to say that I don't want my bills paid and all of that. I mean, that's great. But for me, success is doing what you love,
Mhm.
being able to take care of the people around you, and serving the purpose that we were all put here for. To me, that would be success, is
Amen.
fulfilling the reason I'm here.
Amen. Jennifer, can you share how people can find you?
Sure. I am, if you just Google Miss Dewalt, all of my accounts will pop up. But I'm on YouTube under that, or just Jennifer Cline, Miss Dewalt. If you hit those two things in, you'll find my Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, probably Facebook.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
any of those.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being on the Skill Stadium podcast. I will make sure that your information will be in the
Thank
notes
you.
for the podcast. And
Awesome.
it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. I wish
Thank
you a
you.
wonderful day and continued success.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. My pleasure. Take care.